morning and welcome to the 8th Provincetown Book Festival. Woohoo! And the only reason I don't say 8th annual is because of COVID, damn it. So we did miss a year, but this is the 8th. We started in 2016, and how it has grown and how wonderful it is to see you all here today. This is one of my favorites, if not my favorite, program of the festival because it is about the amazing artistic reservoir that Provincetown is. You know, there's so many people here practice art and are artists and many of them we don't even know about, and it makes me feel like we're back in 2016 in the largest art colony in the country, you know? We have, as you know, we have lots and lots of painters and sculptors and other kinds of visual artists, and we have lots and lots of wonderful writers who may or may not have been published. So it's great to have a curated reading for Provincetown. I love this. This reading was curated by Russ Lopez, who is on the advisory committee for the Provincetown Book Festival, and a shout out to them because they are invaluable in putting this together. Russ Lopez is the author of 6 books of nonfiction. He has done a history of Boston and other histories, and most notably for us, The Hub of the Gay Universe, an LGBTQ history of Boston, Provincetown, and beyond. He's also the author of many short stories, and he edits a magazine called The Teen Lit. What he said to me, or what he wrote to me in an email is, this job was really hard. Trying to pick out 5 selections from the 32 that were submitted, he said almost all of them would have been at least interesting, if not wonderful. But he picked these guys, and we also have, our first reader is kind of special. She was chosen by our curator then, Patrick Nolan, and never got to read. So we have her back from 2022, and she's going to read to you today from the selection that Patrick picked. So I'm going to start, we're just going in alphabetical order, and I'm going to start with Marcine, who is the one who never got to read. Marcine Marcoux is a cultural anthropologist with a master's and a PhD. Oh, I didn't introduce myself. I'm sorry. I'm Nan Sonater. I'm the director of the Provincetown Book Festival and the lead librarian here at Provincetown. Marcine has been a professor of anthropology at Framingham State University and Boston University. She is the author of Cursillo, Anatomy of a Movement. She has written extensively for China Business Weekly, publishing more than 40 articles for China's largest English business weekly, focused on leadership and strategic thinking. She also served for 14 years on Provincetown's Historic District Commission, dedicated to the town's historic preservation. So Marcine was chosen for Reading Local in 2022, but was unable to read, so we're correcting that now. Marcine.
Thank you all for being here. Glad you're here. Okay. Mary Oliver, celebrating the province lands. Is it the sea? Is it the land? Or is it the light? What inspires noted Provincetown artists to write with vigor and exuberance about this place? What elements inspire? For Pulitzer Prize-winning poet Mary Oliver, the land with its woods, marshes, and moors grabs her the most. She moves deeply into the forest and discovers beauty and awe in black oaks, pines and hemlocks. It is the leaf, the seed, the opening bud that teach her. She pays close attention as she hikes the forest pathways and trudges along the dirt roads, edging the kettle ponds and quaking bogs. Whether it is Claps Pond, Beech Forest, or Blackwater Pond, Mary Oliver is there, alert to the daily occurrences as she relentlessly treks the province lands. As for the woods, freshwater ponds, and marshes that constantly fascinate one of America's distinguished poets, Mary Oliver has much to say. Indeed, this poet often writes en plein air. She roams and traipses through this captivating geography, and wild thoughts flow out. Is there a pen to capture the staccato of ideas that suddenly appear? She always carries her small hand-sewn notebook, but in case she forgets to stuff a pencil into one of her other pockets, she has hidden pencils inside the ridges of swamp maples and beech trunks that she passes by on these constant walks. Outdoors, what does she observe? What grabs her attention as she travels these province lands named by the British in 1691 when it was a royal province and part of the Massachusetts Bay Colony? She is ready to tell us, as in Crossing Swamp, where she poignantly writes, quote, "Here in the endless, wet thick, cosmos the center of everything," unquote. This poet finds meaning in ancient swamp waters, in the thick darkness that not only fascinates, but seems to excite and inspire her. She sees deeply into the details of creation and grasps the wonder in, quote, "slick crossings, deep hip holes, hummocks that silently sink into the black," unquote. This poet knows these woodlands, waterways, kettle holes, and tidal creeks well. She knows them intimately through years of foot slogging along these forest roads, stomping through wet, sandy trails, and trudging up and down these dirt, ribbon footpaths. She feels the physical strain, the tightness in her legs, the aches in her back, as she uses all of her stamina to penetrate and give witness to the remarkable curved reaches of these 3,500 acres spawning the province lands. This writer has no choice. She must go out. She must stalk the wildness. It is her calling and the vow she has taken to survey the land, to travel the worn path, to spy, quote, "a breathing palace of leaves," unquote, to catch life emptying into beauty. The simple, the singular, the unexplained, that which is underfoot, this writer constantly examines and analyzes. Like a spy master on a secret mission, she takes up her marching orders and, prepared and utterly attentive, goes out on her daily patrol to observe, to note, and then to report back her decoded findings and discoveries. In winter, as the snow falls, quote, "it's white rhetoric everywhere," unquote, as Mary Oliver captures poignant January moments. And then at other occasions, as in Blossoms, she notes, quote, "what we know we are more than blood, we are more than our hunger," unquote. It is of the sand and soil, the creek beds and lowlands, the mud and muck she addresses. Of all of this, we are a part, and this disturbing truth she knows as well as she knows her name. The sirens that call to Odysseus also whisper to her and beckon. Still, she finds a certainty even in the midst of the eternal uncertainty, a knowing even as she faces the great unknowing. Mary Oliver whispers that, quote, "roots and seal seeds and the wanderings of water," unquote, mystify. It is the hidden, or as she writes in Fall Song, the unobservable mysteries that intrigue. It is here amid the sediments of soil, the thickets of trees, the sinkholes and kettle bogs that she finds, quote, the black leaves of the night. In the dark, tangled world of the woodland lies the core, the heart, the nave of a geography she celebrates. It is life's abundant energy that she finds in these pine woods, backlands, bogs, and moors. It is the epicenter, the elemental source of her thoughts, flora and fauna vibrant in images and creativity. Without the soil, sand, tree branch, and bush, she is lost. Nature centers her and provides the stability she needs to leap into the gaps and dive into the unknowns. In Clap Ponds, she reminds us that, like the feathers of a wing, everything touches everything. All that we walk upon, observe, and note flows into reveries, wishes, desires. Everything touches everything. What is seen during the day appears at night in dreams, and we tremble in recognition. Nothing is singular or separate. Neither inkberries, water thrush, shriveled irises, half-open dahlias, bent cord grasses, or dried wild roses. Everything is linked. It's as if the spider's web leaves thin gossamer threads everywhere. Touch a bull thistle, and the startled deer looks up. Cradle the winterberry, and the clover nibbling rabbit stops and steers. Finger the twisted sassafras, and you yourself shake and shiver. Indeed, we appreciate this poet's insistent slogging through forest and wetlands, and the resulting breathtaking and evocative insights. The trail she leaves, after the trail she treks, are the phrases, lines, and stanzas jam-packed in poem after poem. In her writings, she reveals the mystery found quivering amid the labyrinth of trees, shrubs, ponds, and moors. We read her words and marvel. We read her words and are amazed. Yes, Mary Oliver continually reminds us, as poet Carl Shapiro so well understood, that poetry is a way of seeing things, not a way of saying things. Mary Oliver gives us a way of seeing the province lands, one locale, one landscape, granting us a view and a vision of an incredibly unique place. Thank you.
Wow, that was like listening to the poetry, wasn't it? Yeah. Is Steve Meyerson here? Oh, good. Hi. Yay. We're in alphabetical order, so you're third. Alyssa Metcalf, who publishes as A.D. Metcalf, is a member of Grub Street and sits on the board of directors for the Cape Cod Writers Center. She is also a host and co-producer for Books and the World, a literary cable TV and YouTube program. Her award-winning debut novel, Street, the first in a series, was released in December 2023. Several of her short pieces have been published in various online and print magazines, and her children's book, Mousebound, was published under the pen name Leslie Ann George. She was born and raised in New York City, where her experience continues to inspire much of her writing, and for several years, she has made Provincetown her home. Alyssa.
Good morning. I have to take my glasses off to read. I'm going to read from, this is a short story that was published in 2022 in Close to the Bone magazine. It's titled Forgettable. You have one of those faces, forgettable. Features, nondescript. Hair, halfway between blonde and brown. In the right light, could be either. The length, also ambiguous. Maybe a boy's, maybe a girl's. Your height, average. Weight, ditto. You're the type of person who gets bumped into because people literally don't see you. Regular acquaintances introduce themselves as if they've never met. It's impossible to summon a waiter or a taxi without ridiculous gesticulations. Your personality is just as bland, opinionless. You'll speak if spoken to, but just to parrot what the other person is saying. You won't offer any insight or personal experience, nor will you try to fill those uncomfortable pauses. Before long, the person will do that thing they all do, that thing you've become so adept at recognizing. First they fidget, then smile, but not in a happy way. It's a sign of discomfort. Soon, their eyes and mind hunt for an exit strategy, something or someone they just realized they needed to attend to, and then poof, you're gone, forgotten. Your name, also vague, something androgynous like Sam or Jamie or Terry, the kind people hear and instantly forget. At times, you've given different names during the same encounter just to see if people notice. They don't. When you were young, you yearned to be noticed by teachers and classmates, but always wound up overlooked. By high school, you started recognizing its merits. You were so invisible, even the bullies ignored you. One day, you walked by a group of thugs beating up a kid in the stairwell, and none of them even threw out a, "Hey, what you looking at?" or "Move along, freak." Even the victim didn't bother catching your eye and mouthing help. For a while, it was hard. You'd see groups of people hanging out or lovers sharing a moment of intimacy, and you'd crave human contact, the kind where you'd be looked at instead of through. It's the type of craving and emptiness that aches, throbs even, in your heart and groin. It can halt you, make you want to collapse into a thick blob of despair where your cells cannibalize themselves until you've disappeared into obscurity. When the wave of self-pity passes, you'll go to a convenience store or a gas station, something small as a test. The clerk will watch you come in and track your path down the aisle from the convex security mirrors mounted in the corners. But within a few paces, they're back to looking at their phone or restocking the cigarette display. You'll stop at the candy or the soup or the car freshener, whatever, and pretend to compare prices, but the ruse is irrelevant. No one's paying attention. You'll pocket something and it will feel good, then something else. You don't even need the stuff. You'll just do it because it feels like revenge for being invisible. One day you'll find yourself alone in an elevator. When you arrive at your floor, you'll press all the buttons before exiting the car. The action will make you smile on the inside for the rest of the day, so you'll adopt it as your signature move. At home, the fantasies of all the people you frustrated and inconvenienced will satisfy you more than you expected. You'll relish the idea of being unavoidably noticed while maintaining anonymity. Best of both worlds. For a while. When the crippling emptiness returns, you'll walk into a public building, maybe a town hall or a community center or a library, and pull the fire alarm. You'll stand across the street from the masses as they file onto the sidewalk, some looking scared, others irritated. Fire trucks will arrive. Responders will rush inside with their gear. Before long, they'll filter back out, shrugging and shaking their heads. When their kerfuffle dies down, you'll feel better than you ever have. It's the first time you've been able to witness the effects of your actions, live in the moment, and you'll appreciate the power your anonymity has. That realization will make you feel less hollow, less insignificant, like having done this might be enough, because now you have a starting point, a feeling you could cultivate and incorporate into your daily life, a feeling you could conjure up whenever you felt worthless. This ability could override your insipidness, make people see you as a person with value. They would seek you out, care about you, love you. This could change everything. But it doesn't. You start calling 911 from payphones to report fake emergencies, a robbery here, a car crash there, hiding in the shadows as the swarms of police and rescue arrive, waiting for those feelings of power and control to return. They do, but each time they last less long. Soon you're reporting things like a whole SWAT team that require a whole SWAT team, like a meth house or a hostage situation. Sometimes your calls will even make the nightly news because an innocent civilian or first responder got injured in the commotion. no one's ignoring you now. You'll wonder if being inside all that chaos instead of just causing it would make you even more menacing, more unavoidable. Would you finally, once and for all, actually matter? Only one way to find out. You go to a shady neighborhood, start asking around about how to get a gun. You'll get blown off at first, but you'll soon discover that the antidote for invisibility is cash. Before long, you're in possession of a Sig Sauer 9mm semi-automatic pistol. You've never fired a gun before, but how hard can it be? At home, you'll hold the gun in the mirror, imagining all the ways you could get people's attention, force them to see you, acknowledge you, respect you. You start carrying it outside because knowing it's there makes you somebody, gives you confidence, feels like opportunity. And that'll be enough, for now. One day, you'll go to a Best Buy to purchase a set of earbuds. The counter will be deep with shoppers, but you're next in line. When your turn comes, the clerk will help the person behind you. You'd think you'd be used to it by now. You're not. Every deep, historic wound, even the ones you thought you'd reconciled, will spring to the surface and erupt like festering scabs, oozing a pus so toxic it will burn your skin and boil in your stomach too, percolating up your esophagus to scorch your throat. For a moment, you'll be paralyzed, but then, like a person set on fire, the involuntary reflex to act will explode. You'll pull the gun from your coat pocket and wave it around, pointing it between the frozen clerk and some stunned people at the counter. But you won't know what to say. Where would you even start? So you'll just stand there while most of the shoppers continue perusing the merchandise, unaware of what's going on. Except one. It'll be an off-duty police officer. He'll rush you from the side, grabbing your gun and knocking you to the ground. His actions will be swift and fluid, and you'll be so surprised that you won't even resist. He'll restrain you and usher you up to the street where a cop car will whisk you away. What you'll never know is that on the same day, in the next town over, a kid will shoot up a school, killing 9, wounding many others before taking their own life. The story will fill the news channels for a week. Your little outburst won't register a blip on their radar. Even the people who were in the store will be hard-pressed to recall it. Once again, you'll be...
Okay. I just feel like saying my name over and over and over to you all. I'm Nan. Next up, we have Steve Meyerson, or Stephen Bruce Meyerson, who is a poet, playwright, director, and performer whose work has been presented at theaters and festivals all over the Northeast, as well as on Cape Cod. On the Cape, his plays have been presented at the Barnstable Comedy Club's Playwright Festival, a series of monologues at Watt, and at Provincetown Theater for the 24-hour plays. His lyrical play To the Extreme received a winter read at Provincetown Theater. As a poet, he has read at many venues on Cape Cod and the Fine Arts Work Center, where he was twice named a summer scholar. He's honored to have been previously chosen to read his poetry for Reading Local. He's our first comeback, I think. Yay, welcome. As an actor, he premiered his solo show, Lost Love Poems, at the Providence, not Provincetown, at the Providence Fringe Festival Wilbury Theater Group, and he can be spotted in The Gilded Age on HBO Max. Stephen Meyerson.
Thank you, Nan. So, the poem I'm going to read for you today was originally part of a spoken word solo show I performed at the Providence Fringe Festival. That show is called Lost Love Poems, and it looks at many forms of love and loss. It's at the intersection of poetry and theater. It's interdisciplinary and immersive, set against a backdrop of my video and photographic work with a soundscape from nature. The performance opens with a video clip of Julia Child learning how to make a starter in order to make bread. It's an activity that was very popular during the pandemic, which is when many of the poems for the show were written. And this is the poem that follows that clip. It's called Sourdough. During the pandemic, there was a rise in the number of people who watched vintage episodes of Julia Child and learned how to bake bread, sourdough bread. People who had never baked bread before. People who had never watched Julia Child. People looking for comfort, looking to be nurtured, looking to grow like yeast in a lockdown, like yeast in a time of infection, to be punched down, only to grow back twice the size. All these needy people needing dough romanticized in cooking shows as some sort of seductive act akin to a massage, from another perspective may be seen as an aggressive act, a fist fight between flour and water. Kneading dough is a stress-reducing activity for the baker, if not the dough, with physical benefits and a nurturing end result, bread. Bread, once subdued, once tamed and curled up into a ball, soft as a pillow on a bed, is by its very nature comforting, filling, pleasing, even with its holes, or because of them. Bread, tasted, chewed, consumed, dominated and bite swallowed whole, fills that void of emptiness in the baker. But what of the bread? The bread, in its ignorance, in its innocence, is all too happy to oblige, out of a feeling that it's loved, that it's needed. But is this codependent relationship healthy? Sure, the flour flourishes as it grows into bread, but at what price? By allowing itself to submit to the whims of a hungry baker with an aggressive appetite? By allowing itself to be manipulated into whatever this Svengali craves? By losing its pure self after having just one too many cumin-spiked drinks of H2O on top of a kitchen counter? Not that this flour is all that innocent to begin with. This wheat lost its chaff long ago when it was milled around the block. But now, in a game of too rough play, it's stirred and violated, punched and stretched, rolled and rolled over and over before it's baked to a crisp, ultimately to be devoured by this carefree baker who could care less, who with no regard for either himself or the dough doesn't protect either because, well, it just doesn't feel the same when he counts carbs. He selfishly eats the loaf whole, in one sitting, spread with butter until he's satisfied. The question arises, is this really healthy? From start to finish, this act of creation, this ancient mating dance in the culinary kingdom, if somewhat unorthodox, is as magical as a carney's trick. The fermentation of yeast, a starter grabbed out of thin air, is a sleight of hand move. Yeast all around us in its naturally occurring form is a single-celled fungus that feeds on this mixture of flour and water, giving off carbon dioxide, which makes the mixture grow out of nothing. As it sours, it nurtures and grows out of nothing. And the question arises, how did that happen? It's the reverse of what occurs in human relationships, which grow until they sour, until they ferment, until they are no longer comforting, sustaining, nurturing. But they both begin with a starter out of thin air, out of nothing. Often with the breaking of bread, across the table. And the question arises, how did that happen? Thank you.
Thanks so much. Next up is Ronnie Nutil, whose memoir, am I saying your name right, Ronnie Nutil? Okay. Whose memoir, Do You Know How Lucky You Are, explores life with her mentally ill Bengali immigrant mother, narrating the desperate desire to care for her despite a history of violence and neglect, and to save her from a false prophet bent on taking advantage of her. Ronnie is a recipient of the 2022 Massachusetts Cultural Council Fellowship. She has taught ethnic American, Asian American, and post-colonial literature at Harvard, Yale, and Johns Hopkins University. Currently, she teaches creative writing and Asian American literature at Tufts University and Emerson College. Her work has appeared in the New York Times Book Review, Elle.com, Al Jazeera English, CNN, BuzzFeed, Cosmopolitan, The Washington Post, and the Los Angeles Review of Books, among other publications. She is the co-editor of the book Bangtan Remixed, a critical BTS reader about the K-pop group BTS, forthcoming from Duke University Press. And here's Ronnie.
Well, now I'm hungry, though. So my stomach's making all sorts of noises. Anyways, okay, so these are the first opening pages of the book I've been working on, my memoir, Do You Know How Lucky You Are, which I hope finds a home one day. So we'll see. I don't want to see my mother. Returning to her is like running into a house on fire. Can I salvage the memories, the love, the connection we once had as a mother and daughter before the beams collapse and trap me? I don't want to see my mother. Nonetheless, I have traveled 48 hours to save her. As I exit the airport, the smoke of Kolkata engulfs my face, laces my lungs, and stings my eyes. My tongue is chalky from a lack of sleep, and I'm confused about the date and time. I want to shower and rinse away the grime of travel and delay the moment when I see my mother, but I know I need to reach her as soon as possible. A car arrives to drive me to my childhood home. Though it is 70 degrees outside, I shiver. In Kolkata, winters are warm and humid and crisp all at once, so different from where I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts, with its frigid, clear blue skies. In Kolkata, sun is always obscured by the smoke from hundreds of stacks of burning trash. As we get closer to the city, I take in the new housing developments that have sprung up along its edges. These concrete high-rises didn't exist when I was younger. Only the chaiwalas that sit by the side of the road with roiling pots of cardamom tea, hot coffee, and huge battered steel kettles that send pirouettes of steam into the air remain. That and the deftly choreographed dance of scooters, buses, and cars unfolding outside my passenger window. I marvel at how the vehicles maneuver around each other, miraculously escaping collision, the nearly indecipherable way they communicate via the beep, beep, beep of their horns. This is a sound I'd almost forgotten, a sound from a life I have fought to leave behind, a life with my mother. Days before, I was lying in bed, cocooned in a down blanket, when an urgent summons that would compel me to India arrived. My feet ached from a long day of waiting tables at a bar where MIT grad students mingled with biotech geniuses. As I scrolled, mesmerized through a cascade of Facebook posts and wedding announcements, I reached out to pet my beloved Chihuahua Banjo, who was curled up in a bun beside me. A message from my cousin Neeraj suddenly appeared on my laptop screen. I froze, photos of newborn babies and cute adopted dogs instantly forgotten. You need to bring your mother back home. My body stiffened and a knot of air gripped my throat as he explained that my mother's health was rapidly declining. Her mind was losing its purchase on reality. She urgently needed medical care. More than a year had passed since I'd seen my mother. During that time, she'd been living in Kolkata with my Aunt Shanta, her older sister, in the same flat that I had lived in as a young girl without her. I called every month to check in, and every month Shantamashi answered the phone. "How is she?" I would ask. "She is okay, I'm taking care," Shantamashi would quickly reply. With each affirmation of my mother's well-being, I felt assuaged, but the feeling was ephemeral, just like the calm before a tornado. The winds die down and the air is still. Then, the sky mutates into a spire that cuts through the earth like blades of a whirling blender. Here was the tricky truth of it. I had left the work of my mother's care to my aunt because I hadn't wanted to be near my mother. Even though I had fought for 5 years in court to be my mother's guardian, to wrest her back from the control of a false prophet as her mind decayed, I needed to know she was safe, but also at a safe distance. I didn't perform the role of the Indian daughter who takes her mother home and cares for her despite any conflict between them because I abhorred her touch. Because being near her madness reignited my own madness. Because if I found myself in the same room with her, my mind might explode into bloody bits of confetti. I took refuge in the 12,000 miles between us, the boundless Atlantic Ocean protecting me from the cutlass of her hands, the fury of her words. So when I received the message from Neeraj, I didn't want to move. Still, an incomprehensible sliver of me felt drawn to safeguard my mother, once again, and fight to be her guardian. Consciously, I wanted to force myself to never speak to her again, abandon her, be done with her presence. But a tenacious reflex to protect her always prevailed, because my relationship with my mother is a quantum entanglement. We are particles, a universe apart, yet intimately linked and forever dependent upon each other. I have been trying to understand my mother's madness and the rupture between us my entire life. It was this quest for answers that led me to pursue a doctorate in ethnic studies, reading stacks and stacks of books that detailed South Asia's complicated history. I enrolled in course after course of anthropology, literature, and feminist theory. I tried to narrate the ways colonialism acts as a psychological condition, twisting and distorting the lives of my Dida, my mother's mother, and each of my aunts. I read about the effects of racism and sexism on the bodies and minds of women like my grandmother, aunts, and mother. The history was so complex and dense that I could barely comprehend its detail and scope. My studies enriched my life, but they couldn't give me what I most desired, an understanding that would allow me to forgive my mother her furies, her refusal to seek help, her abandonment, nor, it turned out, could they provide me with stability. I was told that a life of the mind would be a safe and prosperous path, but in the end, I wasn't able to find a full-time academic job. Instead, I became an itinerant postdoctoral fellow, wandering from institution to institution. Now, I was a server at a bar, a grown woman trying to figure out what to do next. During my time as an academic, I had journeyed through various elite institutions, always on some level seeking the approval of my mother. I wanted to prove to her that I was a good child, who was as smart and successful like the other Indian children I grew up with, kids to whom she always compared me. But whenever she saw me, she would say, You think you are smarter than me just because you taught at Harvard? You are not. Thank you.
I feel like we need, to stand up and like do jumping jacks or something in between these readings just to, get the blood flowing and get a break. But no, we're moving right along. Next up, we have Kai Potter, who is a writer for the Providence Sun Independent and a newly published author. His first book is Noticing the Quiet Season on Outer Cape Cod, a collection of nature essays written over the last 3 years. It focuses on the lesser-known and very rich quiet months of the Outer Cape. Kai is an artist, writer, surfer, and landscape designer, born and raised on the outer edge of Cape Cod. And in short, not a wash ashore. He grew up amongst the scrub pines, sand dunes, wild oceans, and colorful characters that shape the landscape there. He is often found wading through roadside meadows or lying flat, cheek pressed to the ground in pursuit of a closer look. And here he is.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming out in the rain, and thanks to all the wonderful readers and writers here. I'm grateful to be a part of this. This essay is about that moment when you first start to realize that the seasons are changing and that summer is sort of coming to an end and fall is beginning. It's titled Turning the Corner to Fall. The wind blew and summer was gone. This is how it happens. One day, a day on either side of the middle of August, something changes. The air feels different. The angle of the sun shifts 1 critical degree in its southern arc. The wind brushes your skin in a particular way, and you feel the change. It is a feeling before it is a thought. The animal within lifts its nose to the wind, tastes the air, and knows. The grackles came on the 13th of August. I was sitting by the French doors at my table where I watched the feeders in the morning. I heard them first, their wings that pulled a sound from the air. Then I saw them drop from the sky, sleek and so black they are iridescent. Yellow jewel eyes that see everything, each set belonging to the whole. They are brusque in their approach, but aware. Indoors, I shift in my seat, and they notice. You are early, I said, then remembered that they are the bringers of the season, not the calendar. They stand on their black wire legs on the grass, one of them on the feeder, broadcasting seed for the others. The creaking call letting the woods and fields know they are here. You cannot miss them, just like the shift in the wind. I spoke to a friend who grew up in the islands. She told me how the Christmas winds come every December there. It's just a breeze, she said, from a different direction. You feel it, and there's no question. The season has changed. This shifting of the season is something that, despite all our distractedness, our obsessions with newness, the body knows is still important. Some part of us, an old part, our intuition knows. Our minds may attempt to challenge with logic and reason, but it's still summer. Questioning this deep knowing instinct nearly always leads to trouble. Have you ever sat by a fire for the entirety of its life? A fire starts with a swelling intensity. The fire builds, it expands. The heat has an outward force. At some point, the fire reaches its peak. The wood has been converted to light and heat, and in a nearly imperceptible shift, it begins to contract. It is receding now. The heat that before reached to the woods behind you starts to pull closer, as if it wants more of itself to keep warm. It is still hot, it still burns, but it is different in a way that only the body notices at first. You lean in, just a little bit. The grackles will come again. Next time they will come in a great swarm, advancing through the trees in short bursts. They will strip the oaks of their acorns. Their voices will fill the woods, and you will stop and look up. They will seem to settle in, but when you shut the door, they will all take to the sky as one, sucking all the sound from the world with their wings. We have turned the corner to fall. There will still be hot days. The flowers that like cool nights will bloom in purple and yellow. Bees will still hum the sound of sunlight. The sun will feel sweeter in the way another's presence does when you know she is leaving. You'll make more time to be with her, each touch and smile bittersweet. There will be wet grass in the mornings. You will pick up a sweater as you walk out the door. The sun will settle a little more to the south each day. One morning, the dew on the grass will be hard crystal. One day, the north wind will bite your neck. One day, a daffodil will push up through a pile of wet leaves.
Well, that was totally appropriate on the fall equinox. Today's the 21st, so we're right at the turning point. Although, as Kai pointed out, it really turns in August sometime. There you go. Not just sometime. Our next reading is really very special because Virginia Reiser died in 2016, and she is the author. Her work will be read by her husband, Gary Urgansky, and his second wife, Carolyn Dutch. Ginny Reiser, as she was known, was a senior editor of G.K. Hall's large print division in Boston after graduating from Indiana University with a degree in literature. After studying Italian cooking in Tuscany, Ginny ran Pranzo Cafe in Brewster, as well as a successful catering business. She finally returned to her first love, which was writing. She took classes at the Fine Arts Work Center in Provincetown, and she later earned her MFA in writing at the Vermont College of Fine Arts. And as I said, she died in 2016. So here are Gary and Carolyn.
Oh, no, it's fine, we can share. No,
Okay, good.
thank you, Nan.
It's on the letter.
Up into the Trees by Virginia S. Reiser. Prologue. Stories, especially true ones, have no one beginning and no one end. You choose where to start them, and at each subsequent retelling, they grow with their later ironies, coincidences, reverberations, and revelations. One day, without even planning it, these codas become the actual stories, and if you look back, you see only that the story has taken on a larger life, one beyond that of the teller. Like a ball of string, you can wrap a story around anything, but when you unravel it completely, lay it out flat, can you point and say, that's definitely the beginning and that's the end? Even if a close friend swears the farthest end comes first, do you wonder at the certainty or trust in the guidance before you roll it back together? I could start this story with the history of Unionville, a small city really that sits across the river from Boston. Unionville butts up against a hill that slopes down to once were meadows, but now are only highways. Often they creep and clog with commuter traffic, and so for many hours of the day, there are roads that seem to go nowhere. Or probably most of you are too impatient to start that way. And maybe I am too. Place is central to this story, which means one street, Prospect Street, the one I moved to 40-odd years, a lifetime ago. Our street is a dead end, the last street wedged into one side of a park whose hill rises to corral the vestiges of those long-ago meadows. Prospect is a name of promise, of new beginnings, a foretelling of the chance for those without chances to have a home, to claim their own parcel of land in an urban space, or so it did once. What I want to tell you, at least according to some people, started last summer. Myself, because I've lived here longer than any of my neighbors, I believe it started way before. And maybe in the end, you'll agree with me. If you don't, that's all right too. Whatever you decide, and not just about that, you yourselves become part of the story, and that's the best I can hope for. Part 1, as it was in the beginning. Chapter 1, What Will Be.
We're great together, aren't we, Paul?
Mary Alice asked. Was this the beginning? She was in the back of our dry cleaning store threading the sewing machine. I looked over at my wife. She was beginning to show a soft roundness settling around her middle. It became her.
We're our own bosses, and we're doing honest, good work that always makes people happy.
It was true. Nothing made her happier than telling a customer, especially a neighbor, that she would make it come out all right. When the bell jangled to the tune of the day's first customer, I headed for the utility closet to get more benzene. Mary Alice chatted away.
Next Thursday, okay? Light starch as usual. How's your mother?
Her hand rustled through the water for a bowl for a peppermint.
Save it for later. You never know when you'll need a little pick-me-up.
The bowl, only about 8 inches across, was the largest crystal one I thought we could afford on our trip to Ireland, the spring before we opened the store, a trip I planned after the last miscarriage.
Chapter 4, What Counts? I think we've moved to a funny place, Schuyler said, the year they moved to Prospect Street. She was 5.
Your mother and I think we prospected the street pretty well.
Her father smiled.
You mean funny ha-ha or funny peculiar?
She wasn't sure what peculiar meant, so she shrugged.
Why do you feel that way?
But Schuyler didn't really want to say how, when she stood in shadows to listen, most of the people didn't seem to like her parents, or her baby sister Zoe. So she answered, I didn't mean it, and never mentioned it again. Instead, she started counting the number of kids who played with her that first year, 1, Jessie. The number of houses on the funny street, 16. The number of sidewalk squares that took them to the park entrance a block away, 143. That was the hardest, learning to count so high. She loved the park whenever her mother took her and Zoe, whom Schuyler did not count. Prospect Park was filled with trees so tall, she had to bend back to see their tops, all different colors of green, her favorite color. At the top of Prospect Hill, on one side, Schuyler could look down over the park, rolling mounds of grass painted with bushes, flowers, and the trees, which she had come to love almost more than anything. And on the other, past the highways buzzing with cars, she could see over to Boston, with its Capitol building's golden dome shining, even on rainy days, like its own special sun. When she closed her eyes and spun around really fast, she could still see its light there behind her eyes. It was Jessie who showed her that last part about the eyes, which was why she liked him, some of the time. But not the times he said he wouldn't hang around with her because he was older, which was so stupid because when she counted, it wasn't even a whole year, only 9 months. Sometimes he told her he played with her only because his mother made him. Sometimes he ran ahead in the park and hid behind a tree and popped out to try to scare her. Sometimes he tried to push her away, and sometimes he even made her fall. But Schuyler never cried because somehow she knew if she did, it would make Jessie happy. And that was funny too. Once, Schuyler heard her mother and father say, as much as they liked it, they did find something funny about Prospect Street. The fat lady, Mary Alice, who always gave out peppermints at the store where her mother took her father's shirts. Schuyler liked the candies, but even more, she loved the beautiful bowl that held them. She moved to touch the glass once, but her mother said no. It's all right, the fat lady said, but she has to understand. Some things aren't meant for her to touch. Mary Alice kept talking to Schuyler's mother, but Schuyler watched the bowl, waiting for the sun to strike it and make little dancing rainbows. Mary Alice was asking, "How's Sam? How old is Zoe now? She's growing so fast," which meant her mother would soon say, "I have to go," which Schuyler always knew was a lie. She wished for the bowl to dance right away, but it didn't. When they got back home, her father asked about the Feeneys. "Mary Alice is funny," her mother said.
Is that funny ha-ha or funny peculiar?
Her father asked. "Neither. Shush." "I'm going to color up in my room," Schuyler said. She raced loudly upstairs, but then snuck back down the hallway to listen from behind a door. When she made herself as small as possible and stood very still, she could hear lots of things. Schuyler liked secrets.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you can see that our curator had an embarrassment of riches here. It's a wonderful thing. Do we have questions for any of the readers? Anybody want to speak to what they heard or ask about how it was written or anything? Don't be shy. Or just tell them how great they were. Let's do another round of applause. Yes.
It's not a question, it's just I know how hard it is. These are wonderful stories, but just Kai, it's nice to know you because I read what you write in the paper. It's nice. And starting with Mary Oliver, that was a fabulous reading. It makes me want to get my books out and write again. But this is very fabulous. I admire all your writing. It's fabulous. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, that is one of the sort of secret assets of this is it makes you want to write when you hear it. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
I'm getting very nervous about the use of AI. I
Mm.
just wonder, I mean, none of you used AI, I take it, yet. But what's gonna happen? What does the future look like as far as writing, from your heart versus a machine, doing that?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question for you. Being that it was about your mother, what's the status of you and your mother now?
She passed away.
Okay. But was there ever a really coming together?
Oh, but that's the end of the book.
Subscribe to her website.
But we passed over AI, and I do want to go back to that as well. Those of you who are published writers maybe have had some experience with it, or I don't know. What, anybody here had any experience with it?
There's a lot of articles that I've been seeing about, fears and whatnot, but, I from what I've seen, it's 50-50. Some people that think it's gonna completely doom the industry, but others who are confident that it could never match the artistic capacity of the human mind.
If it makes you feel any better, I teach writing and to students, and I'm able to identify the AI ones immediately. I use AI to have them write, and we talk about what AI writes and the differences between what AI is writing, which is really just human generated, because, my husband's in tech and he likes to tell me, AI is only spitting out what humans are giving it. So I don't know. It feels like, at least for me in college, it doesn't seem as anxiety provoking as it was maybe last semester. I'm not sure, but it doesn't feel as bad anymore. Will, am I right? He's in tech, so he knows better.
What are you thinking?
We'll have to wait and see, I guess. Ronnie had a paper that she got in the class that was very clearly AI written, because while it was very coherent, it was wrong in very bizarre ways. And that sort of speaks to what she says. It can do a facsimile of what humans do, but it does it in very, very weird ways that it's like the uncanny valley in book form. So, but I think I think people make art because they want to connect with each other, right? So it's going to be a problem if you have a job writing copy for a business, but you make art to connect with other people. You don't make art to connect with machines, and you don't want to connect really with a machine. You want to connect with another person. So, I mean, maybe that is something.
Yeah, good answer. Thank you. That's a very good answer. I like that very much. I was just thinking about that historically, I'm guessing that there have been a lot of threats to the written word, I think maybe people went, when they heard about Gutenberg, they went, oh God, no one will write anymore, or something. I don't know. But I think that there have been a lot of threats to this very human endeavor, and it hasn't died. So I'm with you there. Any other thoughts or questions?
I have a comment about AI.
Okay.
I think part of the beauty of something really well written is the mystery of the person behind it. I mean, it's never a complete telling, but it's so much more special when you can know even a little bit what's behind the writing. You can't get that with AI.
Of course not. Yeah.
I actually think the bigger threat is cell phones, which are teaching entire generations of people to have ADD. And to get somebody interested enough in a book to sit and read the whole thing, that's going to be the doom of us who write longer, full-length novels and memoirs and whatnot.
Yeah, good point, yeah.
Well, I take a slightly different stance. I'm not that sanguine with the capacity of the human spirit and artistic inner quality to overcome or to stay ahead of AI, because we're only seeing the beginnings of AI. You take AI and you add it to quantum computing, and when you get to the point where you can have so many facets and so many algorithms thrown at you, such that we have not determined yet what really defines consciousness. We haven't. So although we are firm in our belief that the human spirit will exceed and conquer, I don't think that I feel comfortable with that, because I'm an engineer and I see it from the other aspect of it. And I know for in truth, from the scientific side, AI is fantastic when used properly, and it's in fact fantastic for educating if you use it properly. But I don't know where we're going in the future, and I think many of the founders of AI are concerned as well about that spirit. And you listen to many podcasts, and I am not certain that we're headed in a safe place.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a good warning. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
So I had an interesting experience with AI this week. I'm a psychotherapist, and I met with a client who is very much an introvert and had been using AI for work projects for a long time, but then decided to use it for a letter and to write some things. And it was incredibly helpful to her. And then she brought it into our session and kind of read it and was kind of saying, you know, I couldn't find the words, these are the words, and then it led to us discussing it. So it was how AI could sort of be a bridge in a way and allow, I mean, she did have to reflect on it, and she did bring it in to our session, so it wasn't just purely using it, but it was an interesting bridge. And slightly on the side, I saw a news report about people with brain injuries and using AI to help them with the software that helps them speak, like the eye movement software, and how pretty soon it's going to accelerate that dramatically. So it is going to be bad, and it is going to be good. And I like your analogy. I was thinking about how when I was young, there's a thought that reading comic books was going to rot kids' brains. And there's always something that's, and the cell phone one I think is the one I kind of agree with the most in a way, because I see it personally. That my attention is less. But I also think technology comes, and technology of all kinds always has, always scares us, and always does affect things in positive and negative ways.
Well, that about sums it up. Thank you. Any other questions for these wonderful writers and readers before we go? Kai's book, I know, will be on sale in the conference room, where Jeff from East End Books has all of the books from all of the people at the festival, and in particular, you can buy Kai's book there, and I bet he would sign it for you. And I don't think we have any other books for sale, but
I did bring a couple of copies of my novel Speed.
oh, good. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so Alyssa Metcalf has some books to sell as well, so yay. Okay, so we're all good, I think. I'm so glad to have this wonderful start to the Provincetown Book Festival. You guys were great. Thank you so much.